What's up, everybody? I'm Jesse Ziegler. That's Ryan Nitzen. And now we're going to talk about the all-new 2022 .5755 KTM 450 SXF FE. You got any more letters or numbers I can say?
I think that's it.
That's a lot. It's the factory edition 450 SXF. Like, this is a serious bike for serious dudes and serious ladies that want to rip on the motocross track.
This is the cream of the crop, the best of the best KTM you can buy.
I'm not going to lie to you, it's a little intimidating for me.
It's a lot.
I like 450s because guys like me that are 45 years old, 180 pounds, they can be lazy. You can ride a track in third gear on a 450F and not shift.
Leave it.
Clear all the jumps. Super easy. But KTM took a little different approach than the vet class sort of lazy guy.
They threw the Powerparts catalog at the bike. It's a new generation KTM, so different than the 22 standard model that you might have picked up at the dealership. This is a preview of what the 23 production model is likely to look like.
Yes, I love factory editions for that. You get a preview of what's to come. My favorite thing is off-road racing as well. So now I'm looking at what's the XCF's going to look like in a couple years. They're going to look like this. You get a lot with the 450 SXF factory edition.
Yeah, so with the new bike, you're getting new frame, new swing arm, new engine. They've shortened the engine to bring a closer, lower center of gravity, new suspension settings, new seat, new airbox. Like I said, it's an all new generation, so this bike is all new.
And not only that, this is a platform that KTM's invested in across their motorsports racing. So if you look at the new factory rally bikes, this is the frame and engine package that they carry.
You must have learned that on the Dakar Daily podcast.
Yeah, podcast guy. But it shows you like the confidence they have in this platform going forward, or the investment that it's going to keep getting refined for years to come. This is the first time we get to ride it. Number one, chassis feels familiar to a KTM, but maybe more on the compliance side, right?
Yeah, not as rigid, not as stiff. They said that the way the shock transfers load through the frame is different, and I think you do notice that. It's not as stiff in the hands. I personally am a really big fan of this air fork and the air fork setting. I said this, 2 years ago or a year ago when we rode the factory edition.
This year, all the internals are essentially the same, but as Lee in the WP R&D department told us, a lot of those components they asked for every year from WP aren't necessarily given. They say, hey, we would be, 2% better here if we had these shim rates or this shim rates. And guess what? In a couple of years, they show up, and now we're seeing the fruits of those investments come in this air fork that still has everything we like about air forks. It's still super lightweight. It still has really positive engagement with the track, like almost a down pressure type feeling as you're going into the turns. You can trust the front tire traction almost all the time on this bike.
A lot more than you could have.
Yes, a lot more than before.
And like what the R&D guys said, they said they've had another 2 years to build on this fork and the settings, and so it's just seeing constant improvement. And I think it's visible. I'm like a really big fan of this fork this year, more than I have been in the past. So it's
getting that gap between spring-like compliance and air fork, bottoming resistance and those things. It's really closing that up, where that spring fork compliance is a little bit less of an advantage now.
You're just the only thing with the air fork, you still have to check your air pressures, kind of like you check your tires. You check it in the morning. When you get to the track, check it, after a moto or two, double check.
I think the 450 feels more substantially sprung and valve than the 250F in the factory edition. I think the 250F is a little more on the comfort side of the spectrum for people. 450 definitely has the hold up for serious racers.
Yeah, and we're built more for 450s, so I think it is. The 250 does feel a little softer, a little squishier, springier. The 450, like you said, definitely when you start riding faster, you feel how it's made for that. Yeah,
you're gonna be rewarded the faster you go. And going fast is pretty easy on this bike because, like the 250F, if you watch that video, we talked about it. KTM engineers came with a 2-map system again, easily switchable on a really clean bar control now. Super cool. You can switch between 2 maps that are drastically different now. Like, there's no questionable hey, map 1 and 2, I kind of like 2 better. I kind of like 1 better. You're definitely gonna like 1 of these better. Because 1 is linear, smooth with tons of over rev. And the other one has punch, aggressive power delivery,
bottom end,
mid,
bottom to mid.
Super great for short shifting lazy guys that still want to feel like they're in control when they're not.
I personally like my 450 to be toned down, no secret.
Mellowed out.
And so I was running map 1 and I was running traction control on to slow it down, just so it feels more rideable. I can ride a 450 a lot better when it's slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, we're not afraid to admit the reality of our riding skills.
No, not at all.
I can slow a 450 down and be completely happy, although I did like riding it in aggressive mode with quick shift on.
Yes.
And just, especially here at Glen.
Yeah, at first.
Up the big hills,
yes.
Up the big start straight. Enjoy the technology that's coming out of that motor.
Yeah.
And the speed at which you can shift through it.
Yep.
And like, just have a lot of fun on the hills.
Yeah, as we mentioned in the 250 video, the quick shift is nothing new. It's not really new technology for KTM or anyone in the road racing world, but bringing it to a production motocross bike is new. And at first, I was not a huge fan of it. I think it was
kind of intimidating.
Yeah,
it shifts so quickly, and the power transition is so seamless that I was kind of like subconsciously resting and preparing for that next gear change.
And it's right there.
And it doesn't give you that opportunity. It goes.
Yes.
It's amazing.
But yeah, so at first I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think it more just took getting used to. And then here at Glen Helen down the start straight with that big long sweeper going from third to fourth and then going up the hills, having that ability to just, you don't have to think about where to shift anymore or plan the shift out. You just can hold it on and shift.
Yeah, if I was to downshift in a second gear on a 450, which I rarely ever do, into a turn, there's a couple of like tight turns at the bottom of those hills here.
Yeah.
You just come out and it's like, let it rev until you feel like shifting and then just tap it. And third just comes instantly in and then it starts wheeling up the hill.
Yeah, I was also a little bit worried that maybe it would, you know, if I'm in a rut, would it shift up on its own? And we put all those to rest. None of that happened today. I didn't bump my foot on it or shift it or anything like that. All the things that I thought, you know, could be a potential danger or something with it.
Not a lot of bugaboos in that quick shift system for me yet. Nothing's come up. 3 days of testing on that bike. We probably put 4 or 5 hours on it.
Yeah, 4.5 on my hour meter.
So the bike's performing really well. I think it's got an aggressive power delivery to compete with the top bikes in the class for the top level riders.
Yep.
It's got a great ergonomic layout to me. It's really comfortable. You know, the Brembo system and the brakes and the clutch are unmatched in my opinion still.
Steel braided brake lines.
Everything is high quality on it. It looks amazing. It's aggressive looking, for sure.
It's a race bike.
It's a race bike, for sure.
It's a race bike.
Across the board, I think it looks great. It's going to turn some heads. It's got a Red Bull graphic on it. So, like, if you're the kind of guy that wants a Red Bull graphic, that's your bike. You want orange hubs. You want an orange sprocket. You want orange spoke nipples. You want orange triple clamps. You want put it in your orange truck. This is the bike for you.